All right, hello everyone. My name is Ty Everett, founding president of Project Babbage. In this video, we're just going to be doing a little quick start guide here for how to upload and download files with NanoStore. So to demonstrate, what we're going to be building is a little image uploader and viewer where you can upload an image to a NanoStore service provider who hosts that image, and they create a public hosting commitment on the Bitcoin blockchain so that anybody who wants to download that image can do so given its UHRP or Universal Hash Resolution Protocol kind of URL or file hash, which is a very specific reference to that file that you've just uploaded. So we're going to build a tool where you can use, or we're going to be building an app that uses the NanoStore Publisher as well as NanoSeek, which is so NanoStore Publisher is a tool for uploading images. NanoSeek is a tool for seeking out or downloading these images that we've, or any file type really, that we've uploaded onto NanoStore. So NanoStore supports all different types of files, any data that you can think of. It can be gigabytes or even terabytes in size. You can upload it for the length of time that you specify and pay a NanoStore service provider, such as the one that I run at nanostore.babbage.systems, which I'll link in the video description here. You can pay a NanoStore service provider to upload that image or any other file. If you want a more in-depth explanation about what is NanoStore, how does it work, those sorts of things, you should check out the video called Babbage Explained Episode 2. And so Episode 2 of Babbage Explained, which is another video series, talks about NanoStore and kind of some of the fundamental principles around how that works. So talking about UHRP and how the URLs work, how the service providers are incentivized, and all of that stuff. There is a blog post version of this content available on projectbabbage.com/nanostore/quickstart. And NanoStore, of course, being one word. So same with Quickstart. So Quickstart's also one word. There's going to be a link to that in the video description as well. So if you would rather follow along with a written version of this content through a blog post, you should check that out. And if you want to learn more about NanoStore in general, we have a page with kind of a lot of other resources and links and things like that, including links for the protocol specification. And you can find that at projectbabbage.com/nanostore. So with all of that out of the way, we're just going to get started here. So I have pulled up my Visual Studio Code editor, and what we're going to be doing is I've kind of started out here with the Babbage React starter. So the Babbage React starter is just this repository. In fact, I'll pull it up on GitHub right now. So you can find it if you want to follow along. You just go to, and I'll link this in the description, but it's Babbage React starter. This GitHub repository is a little boilerplate for a React app that uses the Babbage SDK, or rather it's a Babbage app built with React, because you can build Babbage apps with any framework or tool. In fact, you don't actually have to, if you want to use NanoStore in your applications, as you'll soon see, it doesn't have to be a Babbage app. But for this tutorial, we're going to be building a little Babbage app that uses NanoStore for uploading and viewing images. And we're going to be using the Babbage React starter, which is kind of the starting point for this, as well as a lot of the other tutorials that we're going to be creating around Project Babbage and creating things with it. Without further ado, go ahead and pull down this repository into wherever you keep your coding projects, and open up your code editor so that you're ready to get started. What we're going to be doing here first is we're going to follow the instructions in the readme.md file. And I've already kind of renamed my thing because I have a lot of these, but basically you're going to run npm install, and then you're going to run npm run start after the install is finished. And then your web page will be available on the local host port 3000. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try to do this so that it's maybe a little bit easier to see everything on the left without me kind of zooming in as much on some of this stuff. So I don't know. Let me know if that works any better for everyone. I'm going to pull my terminal down a little bit to make more room for the code. And with that, I'm just going to run npm install. And that's just going to make sure that I have all of the relevant packages. And then I'm actually going to split my terminal. So I have command / if you don't know what that is. And that way I have a second terminal open just in case I need it. And then I'm going to say npm run start. So that's going to spin up the Babbage React starter project, which has a little template. It's asking me to open up Babbage desktop because I don't have it open. So I'm just going to launch that here. And it should, after you're logged in or once you have an account created, recognize that your Babbage desktop is open, and you should be looking at this page here. I'm going to open up my JavaScript console over here on the right, just kind of getting everything set up. We're going to zoom this up just a little bit as well. And now I'm going to come back here. I'll close out a readme.md. And I'm going to actually pull this up a little bit if I can. There we go. So now it's all on one little, it's on one kind of page. I'm going to zoom this down just a tad bit, actually, so I got more room for my code. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're actually going to start off by just installing some packages that we're going to need. So in the terminal here on the right, I'm just going to npm install, and we're going to need NanoStore Publisher. We're going to need NanoSeek, and we're also going to need a tool or a library called UHRP React, and that's just for showing, these components, or showing like the image that we want to preview. So we're going to install all three of these into the project. And once they are installed, we can now start making our changes here. So I'm going to come over here first off, and I'm just going to, well, actually, let me try to see, there we go. We're definitely going to want okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is make it so that we can upload a file using the NanoStore Publisher. That's kind of our first task. In order to accomplish that, we're going to need a couple of functions from that, and that's called Invoice and upload. So it's coming from NanoStore Publisher. So yeah, two functions here, the upload and invoice functions. We're first going to ask NanoStore Publisher for an invoice that, given the size of the file that we want to upload and the number of minutes that we want it to be hosted for, that the invoice function will return some Bitcoin output scripts, which are basically just ways that we pay the NanoStore Service Provider in order to make our content available. So in the upload function, we actually provide the file after we've created the transaction or the action that kind of enables this, and we also give it the reference number so that the NanoStore server, or so that the service provider actually knows what we're talking about. We're going to make a few changes here at the beginning, just so that we're in a little bit of a better place. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change this title to say something like, I don't know, NanoStore, well, we'll say image uploader and viewer. I think that's pretty close to what I have in the other one. We're going to say upload file or upload image. So I'm just changing around some of the text on some of these buttons. I'm going to delete this as I don't think it's necessary anymore. And then we're actually going to add we're going to make this into a form. So let's just say form on submit equals handle submit. So we're telling the form that once it gets submitted, then we'll close our form tag here. The cool thing about, I've installed standard as your code style in the Babbage React starter, so that we can just save things and it'll kind of auto format. We no longer need handle click on this button, but we are going to say that it is type equals submit, and that way it is able to submit the form when it is necessary. We have this handle submit undefined, but the first thing we're going to do is just say input type equals file, because we want to upload a file, and if I remember correctly, we're going to need this on multiple lines. So there's type equals file, and we'll say, what was it? It was accept equals image/png, image/gif. Wait, is GIF one of them? So we're just, giving it we're basically saying this is a file upload input that you can upload, that you can use to upload files. And then we're saying only accept images. So we're not using handle click, we're using handle submit. So we're going to rename this to handle submit. So just renaming that here on line 24. We're going to take the event and we're going to prevent it from, so we're going to say prevent default, such that we're not actually going to reload the page every time the form gets submitted. So let's see, that should actually make it, so I'm going to scroll down here. That should actually make it so that this can compile. And if I save my changes here, now we got some warnings because invoice and upload are not yet used, but that's perfectly all right. We'll tab over here. And so now we get this file upload input. Clicking on it here should only allow me to upload. Yeah, see, it kind of grays out the non-image parts of this. And if I go to my downloads folder or something, now we can see that I can upload images, but I cannot upload anything like the SVG. And I guess we won't support SVGs in this. I don't think it's supported in the other one, so I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to add some little BRs, and I'm sure this okay, so there's probably a better way of doing that with those break or those BR tags, but now we got this file upload on top of the form there, and we can select the file that we want to use. The next thing is we're going to want to use a ref, and a ref in React is just like a way of making it so that we can, so I imported use ref there at the top. It's a hook in React, just like use state. It's a way that we can basically point to a specific HTML element and use its value in something. So we're going to definitely want that for the file. So we're going to say ref equals file ref, and we're going to come up here just, I don't know, we'll throw it below our class declarations for styling, and we'll just say const file ref equals use ref. What we're going to do now is actually, we have this submit function, right? We want to make sure that the that the user has actually selected a file before we try to upload it to NanoStore. So we're just going to come down here and we're going to say if no file ref or no file ref.current or no file ref.current.files or no file ref.current.files is not one. So actually get rid of this not operator there. So we're basically saying if there is no file ref, or if the file ref does not point to what we think it points to, or if what it points to does not have any files associated with it, so if it's not a file upload basically, or if there is not exactly one file associated with the thing that the file ref points to, then we are going to throw new error. Please select exact only one image, right? Only one image file, right? So let's just go ahead and test this. So we're throwing an error. That should be caught down here in this catch block. And Toastify should, toast.error e.message should just basically show that to the user. I'm going to save this here. And again, we still have those warnings, but I'm going to refresh the page at the top just to make sure we've got the latest thing. Without selecting a file, I'm just going to click upload. And yeah, so please select only one image, right? And that should make sure that kind of we're only uploading one thing here. Now we're actually going to create our invoice. So let's go ahead and create an invoice with, so we're going to go right below the error that we've just done. And we're going to say inv, and it's an async, so we're going to say await invoice. And this is telling us that we need the file size and the retention period. So file size is going to be file ref dot file sub0 dot size, if I do recall correctly. And the retention period, we can just think of a reasonably high number because, yes, this is, so if you're dealing with, very critical data or something, you're going to want to make sure that it sticks around. So you're going to want to renew your hosting contracts and have a system in place for doing that. But realistically, for most, for most use cases, you can just pick a reasonably long period of time after which people aren't going to want to be looking for the data that you've put up. And if you do, again, if anybody wants to continue hosting it, they can renew it. Anybody can renew any hosting contract, etc. However, for this tutorial, what we're just going to be doing is 525,600 minutes in a year times 5 years. So we're just going to basically say that, someone uploads an image, it'll be on this image preview thing and available for anybody to download for the next 5 years. So we've got this invoice created. And so the invoice, according to documentation, is going to provide several things. It's going to provide a reference number, inv.reference number. It's going to provide the Bitcoin transaction outputs that need to be kind of included in the transaction. And it's going to provide a public URL for the specific node, for the specific UHRP hosting provider that where people can download this file once it's uploaded. But that public URL is not very important here, so we're just going to create an action that actually pays the invoice. And so actions can contain data, as you may have already seen, but they can also contain outputs, Bitcoin transaction outputs that pay certain amounts of money to, for example, a hosting provider. We're just going to say upload an image with NanoStore Quickstart, and we're going to keep that the same. We're going to delete this data here. So outputs dot map, and you may actually be wondering what's going on here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to console.log. Well, hang on. Let's just, so script is the amount, or sorry. And then Satoshi's is, if I do recall correctly. So why don't we just go ahead and create this invoice now and we'll log it so we see what's going on. We get the size of the file, right? And we get that. So I'm going to save this. Now we're only, okay, so I'm going to refresh the page again, and I'm going to select a file this time. We're going to go ahead and select the, we can just select a file from my downloads folder. I don't know what this, we'll use this one. And we'll go ahead and create an invoice. We actually get an error. Cannot read property 0 of undefined. Interesting. Okay, so handle submit app.js line 40. We're actually accessing. I forgot to put .current on that. So yes, there is. So yeah, so that error checker is correct, and then it got past it, but we needed to use .current to make sure that we're referencing the correct file there. So we're going to create the invoice, select our image, I'm going to click upload. And what's actually happening is we're creating this invoice. And so now we see this thing that just got logged, right? We're actually going to cancel this action because we didn't set that part up yet. And it's going to say, you know, create action was aborted, but that's okay. So yeah, when we create an invoice with NanoStore, we get these we get the outputs that the server wants. So, right, here's an actual Bitcoin output script, and it wants, you know, a number of Satoshis, and it wants, you know, a locking script that kind of locks that so that the server can see what it is. And then the other one is just like a zero value kind of output for reference purposes. We know, you know, so we know what this transaction is paying for. It contains the reference number. There's public URL. So once this file got uploaded from this NanoStore Service Provider, it could be available for the duration of the contract on this specific URL. And here's the reference number. So that's how we do that. You can now create any Bitcoin transaction using any means, including, you know, other non-Babbage technologies, to pay that invoice and then actually have your file be available. But what we're going to do here is create a Babbage action, which is a Bitcoin transaction internally that that kind of, you know, that would create a Babbage action that pays this invoice so that the user can, you know, authorize it through Babbage Desktop, etc. So we have a mount and output script here, and those need to be just transformed into, you know, according to Babbage Desktop, you know, the outputs. If you look at the documentation for create action, the outputs array needs to be an array of objects, each of which contains script and Satoshis. So we're transforming, so output script becomes script and amount becomes Satoshis. So now we are actually including all of the things we need to include in this action. So now we know what's going on there. The next step is that we've created this action, right? We're going to get rid of some of these console.log things. And we're going to upload the file at this point. So the upload function, we're going to say const response equals await upload. And we're going to say file. So there's the file that we upload. What is it? Transaction hex. So there's the transaction hex that it wants, and it also wants the reference number from INV. So we're giving the reference number so that it knows which invoice is being paid. We're actually handing the server the transaction that pays the invoice. And we are also handing the server the file. So the actual, we're passing the file into the upload. And now what we're going to do is we're going to, so upload is going to return several things in the response as well. It's going to include the hash of the file that was uploaded. It's going to include publish true, which is just a Boolean indicating that publishing the file was successful. And it's going to include the TXID of the payment transaction, which we can also get from, you know, from the call to create action as well, of course. We're going to make a state variable for holding the URL of our file that we've kind of uploaded. So we're going to say uploaded URL equals use state. So basically just creating a state variable there for the uploaded URL of the file that we are going to upload to NanoStore. Now we're going to say set and this is going to be response.hash. Finally, we're going to do some better error checking in this. So we got the console error, etc. But we actually want to show errors from any of the HTTP servers. And so what we need to say is if e.response and e.response dot data and e.response dot data dot description. That's how we get the errors back from the server in case there is an error. We would go ahead and say else, we'll do this, right? But so yeah, we'll just say toast.error e.response.data. So that way, if there's an error with the server, we'll actually see it on the screen as well. And maybe we'll console.error. Well, actually, let's just go ahead and save this. And let's go ahead and, let's see, we'll go ahead and incorporate the uploaded URL as well. So below our form, we're just going to want to show so I'm going to throw this into a div. We're going to want to show the uploaded URL on the screen. So, we'll just say if it's available, then typography, we'll say b URL, right? And then we'll just say uploaded URL, and we're actually going to do. So after we've uploaded our file, we'll close our typography tag. After we've uploaded our file, it should now be available on the screen as a URL. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. I'm going to click the upload button. Oops. I'm going to select a file. I'm going to select the file that I've selected before. I'm going to click the upload button. It's going to ask us to create an action, which spends, a number of Satoshis. And I'm going to approve the creation of that action. It is then going to show on the screen the URL of the file that we've just uploaded. So what you're going to want to do is save this somewhere, right? So I've just copied it to my clipboard so that way I can save it. But this is the upload component of this kind of application. So at this point, you've successfully uploaded a file and created a hosting contract that you've paid a NanoStore Service Provider to host the file for a given length of time, and it's made a public commitment backed by its reputation to do so. And now you have the hash of the file, or this URL that you can use to refer to it, that that is very specific and unique to that file itself, and the URL and the file can never change. So any NanoStore Service Provider that chooses to upload that file in the future will now have that, the file will have that same URL no matter what. And it's just because the URL is basically just a hash of the file encoded in a thing called base 58. So that's the first step here. Now we've got the file uploaded. You might be thinking, well, how do we download it? I want to see my image. So I've saved that, and I'm actually going to just put it down here just in case I end up losing it. But here's my URL. Just put that in the comment for now. And what we're going to be doing next is making it so that we can use, so we can see the image. So we're going to import img from UHRP React, and we're also going to import a text field from there. And we're going to say, basically, when you enter a URL, you can see the image. So entered URL, set entered URL equals use state of null or nothing, empty string. And then we're going to come down here, and inside this div, or no, we're going to make a new div. Yeah, I guess we'll make a new div. I don't think this is how it is in the blog post version, but I'm just going to make a new div here, and we're going to say text field full width on change equals e, and we're going to say set. So basically that means that, and then we're going to say basically to update the state variable whenever the text field changes. And we're just going to say placeholder UHRP URL, right? So you enter a URL and it gets entered there. And then we're going to say IMG, capital I, IMG, not a lowercase. So we have a React component from UHRP React called capital I, IMG that allows you to use these images specifically in React, but there's also ways of doing it with any other tool or framework if people write the code for it. So SRC in the UHRP React library can be an HTTPS URL, but it can also be a UHRP or NanoStore compliant kind of URL, like the one we've just created down at the bottom there. So we can give the source there. We're just going to say, I'm going to give it a class name. And then I'm going to come up to my style sheet here at the very top. So we gave this class name of image so that we can use it here. Now I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to create this class name. And we're just going to say, this image has a width of 10 EMs to keep it, reasonably small, because sometimes people could upload like a 4K image and you don't want it to go off your screen. So image has a width of 10 EM. And with that, we should actually be able to save. And, we'll go and I think we still have this in the clipboard. So we should see a text field down here. And I'll just paste in the URL. And there's the image. So what we've done is use the UHRP React library to be able to view an image in our application. So you can use this, you can embed these hashes or these URLs, these UHRP kind of URLs into any React application. And you can, or any application, any Babbage application, I should say, and incorporate them as part of your app. Now, the final thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be downloading the image. So we're going to add a download button below our image preview. So button, and we're going to say on click equals handle download. And we're just going to say call our button a download button. And we're going to go define our handle download function. So for this, we're going to use NanoSeek. So NanoSeek is the third and final tool that we installed at the beginning of this tutorial. And we're just going to import from NanoSeek, and now we can actually use it. So it's very simple. We just basically say here's the MIME type of the so we're basically saying there's two variables that are returned by the download function. The MIME type of the file that we've just downloaded, as well as the data itself. The URL we just pass in as a parameter is the URL that the user entered. And after we've got this data, I'm actually going to pull up the documentation, and I encourage you to do this as well. So what you're going to do is go to NanoSeek and just look at how they've, how we've done this. So we have the data that we're getting, and we pass in the download URL, right? And then we're basically creating a link tag in HTML or using the DOM, and we are clicking on it. So we're going to create an object URL based on the data and MIME type, right? We're going to create a link, and then the download, we basically give a name for our file, right? So what I did in the blog post is I just kind of I took the MIME type and I took the last part of it, which is like the extension. So split / sub 1. So basically that just says everything after the slash in the MIME type is the ending of the file. And so that's like .png or something. So, whoops, we can say image dot, right? And then whatever the ending is. So if it was PNG or JPEG or GIF or GIF, we can then use it there. Then we're going to click on the link. So that actually completes the code for this. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. I'm going to paste in the, oh no, see, this is why I made the comment at the bottom with the link so we don't lose it. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to throw it into the, whoops, I don't want to do that. I've already uploaded. Actually, on second thought, I'm going to add a few more of these lovely BR tags to separate out some of these things. And I'm going to give this variant equals outlined because I think that looks a little bit better. That means that we've got at the bottom here, now you can enter our URL, our image shows up, and then once it shows up, we can download it. Clicking on the downloaded file yields, ooh, that didn't appear to work very well, did it? So we're getting an error here. We've got the wrong MIME type, but what I'm going to do here is actually just, and you can feel free to do the same. The MIME type should be tracked by the NanoStore server. There appears to be an issue which should be fixed by the time this video goes out. So that little piece of code didn't work, but I'm just going to change that to image.png. And I'm going to re-download it, and we should then be able to open up our image, and we can see that we've created an image we've uploaded the image that we wanted to use into NanoStore. We have got the URL from it after we uploaded it. We've been able to paste the URL into a text field and then preview the image that So we've got the image viewer working, and then we were able to download the image. And there was a slight bug with the MIME type that's going to be addressed before this video goes live. But you should be able to use the code that is in the blog post or in the GitHub repository that includes the correct kind of file naming for the image that we download. But literally, that's just the name of the file that we're downloading, and like I said, that should be addressed. So that is how we can create an application that uses NanoStore and uses these tools to publish a file onto the NanoStore service providers with NanoStore Publisher and pay them a small amount of Bitcoin using the Babbage the Babbage SDK for create action, to create an action. If we look in Babbage Desktop, we can actually see that the action we created, I'm going to refresh this here. We can see that we used our localhost app to upload an image with NanoStore. And, that costs 12% of a penny. Compared to putting that same image into a Bitcoin transaction and actually just literally putting it on the blockchain and paying the miners, I think it's about $1 per megabyte, as I said in the NanoStore Explained episode of Babbage Explained. So that's kind of the end of this tutorial here. Thank you for taking the time to watch and follow along. There's a lot of cool things that you can build with NanoStore. You can do encrypted content, you can do videos, you can do AR objects, you can do any number of things that you can think of with multimedia content to build kind of content-rich on-chain applications that keep their data off-chain, but that use the blockchain for its transparency and accountability properties to make sure that your content actually is available and everything like that. So if you want to learn more about NanoStore, you can go to projectbabbage.com/NanoStore. And again, check out the Babbage Explained episode 2, talking about NanoStore. And check out our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be informed about latest kind of videos and updates. We got some really cool things in the works that are going to be coming out over the next weeks and months. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I'll end the tutorial here. Thank you for watching. My name is Ty Everett. I am the founding president of Project Babbage.